So you've got spiritual information, practical information, and philosophical information. Now, this is all information. This has always been there. This is not new information. But when we're talking about education, when we're talking about syllabus and curriculum, then you know what that is? A curriculum is nothing but taking a ton of information and breaking it down into digestible parts, breaking it down, and having a plan that in the first week I will give you this information. In the second week I will give you this information. In the third week I will give you this information, and laying out a whole plan. This is my year 1 plan. This is my year 2 plan. This is my year 3 plan. In year 1, this is the spiritual information I will get across. In the year 1, this is the practical information I'll teach. How often will I teach it? For how long will I teach it? Will I teach it 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day? What time will I teach it? And this is not just, I'm not talking about a curriculum for schools. I'm talking about curriculum for Muslim parents. Every Muslim parent should have a curriculum. I'm interested in developing that curriculum with the help of teachers. To develop a curriculum not for schools, but for parents across the globe. Okay, so you want to teach your child Islam? Okay, here's your 7-year-old curriculum, 8-year-old curriculum, 9-year-old curriculum, 10-year-old curriculum. You don't have to follow it by the letter, but if you want to, I've broken it down for you. Here's what you can do in the first week, second week, third week, fourth week. I want to develop that for my own kids. Why not develop it for everybody else's children too? That's an important aspect of information, because what happens right now is you say, yeah, you're right, Ustad said we should learn some du'as. What are you going to do? Google du'as. When you Google, you're going to get 10,000, 100,000 links. Every website's going to have its own information, and you're going to be like, this is too much information. There's too much information. How do we break this down into practical bits? You know? So information is great, but until it's broken down strategically, it doesn't benefit. It doesn't benefit. So that's the first dimension, information. Then what really interests me personally, understanding. SubhanAllah, we're living in a time now where information is no longer a problem. Information used to be a problem. You know that? People used to travel 6-7 months to hear one scholar say one hadith. It used to be, information was the problem. Now the problem is no longer information. On your iPad you can carry an entire library. And the authors of that library are from different centuries and different parts of the world. No student of knowledge 200, 300 years ago would imagine having those books in their house. They wouldn't even imagine having those books in their city. They wouldn't even imagine having those books in their country. Now you have them in your iPad. Information is not a problem anymore. You know, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, if you want to study Tafseer of Quran, and you want to compare 5 mufassirun, you open the stack of mufassirun, you find the page, and oh, okay. Then you open up the next stack, and oh, it was work. It was work, right? Now what do? You just drop down menu, surah, ayah, pick the mufassir, bam. Tafseer in front of you. 8 centuries? No, I want to go 3 centuries later. Okay, bam, right over there. Okay, got it. Oh wow, I'm not impressed with this tafsir. Let me go to another one. That's information is not a problem. You know what is the problem though? Understanding. Understanding, in my personal view, is made up of 2 parts. I know I give you lots of things with lots of parts, but it's just what I do. Understanding is made up of how many? 2 parts. There's the lecture, and there's the practice, exercises. Lecture and exercises. Any classroom you've ever been in. If you've been in an accounting class, if you've been in a psychology class, if you've been in a sociology class, most of the class is what? Most of the class is what? Lecture. Most of the homework is what? Practice. Isn't that what it is? At the end of the day, all education boils down to lecture and practice. Lecture, practice, over and over and over again. Now what's the boring part? I know all of it is boring, I understand. But like, what's more boring? Lecture's more boring. Lecture, guys talking for an hour, 25 minutes. Is jihad fi sabilillah to stay awake? Right? But sometimes you find a phenomenal lecturer. Sometimes you find a lecturer that you cannot stop listening to. And he's just mastered the subject. And when you're listening to them, you can just, they understand. You've heard other lecturers before on the same subject, but when that guy explained the math problem, it's like, oh my God, I get it. This guy's awesome. You understand? Now, does every classroom that teaches the same math class, does every classroom have the top quality lecturer? No. You might find one top quality lecturer over there, one over there, one over there, but most classrooms will have a boring lecture. They will. And if the lecture is not very good, does it affect the practice? It does? Yeah. One of the great aspects of the revolution of modern technology is we have the Khan Academy model in front of us. What is the Khan Academy model? I'm impressed. I'm seriously impressed. Not just because he's Muslim and not just because his name is Khan. Okay? But I'm seriously impressed. Why? Because his philosophy is, okay, let's take an hour lecture and first let's break it up into just 10-minute parts. Let me give you a lecture for just 10 minutes. And in these 10 minutes, I'll explain this problem to you on YouTube. And then when you go to class, all you do is practice. All you do is practice. Now let me tell you, this is actually really key here. The lecture is what you do in the classroom, right? The lecture is what you do in the classroom, and the practice is what you do at home. Khan Academy model says, no. Go do lecture at home. We'll do practice in the classroom, and I think it's genius. It's super genius. Why? Because when you're doing homework and you're making a mistake, is somebody correcting you right away? No, because you're on your own. And you're doing homework with your friend who's as blind as you are. So you're both making the same mistake. You're both making the same mistake. And even if your homework gets corrected, right? Sometimes you submit your homework, it comes back with the corrections. Does it necessarily mean you understand your mistakes? No. Is it a guarantee that every student who gets their homework corrected goes over their mistakes? You stick the homework in your bag, you never look at it again. You understand? Now, what if you saw the lecture on your own time? You came into the class and you started doing what used to be homework, now became classwork. Every time you get stuck, what do? Every time you get stuck, who's there? Teacher's there. You ask him right away. He says, okay, remember we talked about that? That's how you do this, and you go, oh. And you get it. And you do it. Now, is this going to stick or no? It's going to stick a lot better, isn't it? It's going to stick a lot better. The other genius of this plan is that you can have the world's best lecturers shared by everybody. Because at the end of the day, understanding, I told you, is based on two things. What are the two parts? Lecture and practice. The lecture can be standardized. The lecture can be standardized. Let's get the world's best lecturer, the best Alif Ba Ta teacher on the planet. Let's get him on YouTube. Let's get him on YouTube. And let's give him for homework, the lecture. And when you come to class, let's practice. Let's practice. The other thing that this does, because there are metrics now online, is you're watching the video online and you can tell how long a student was logged on to the video. You can tell how long their mouse was active. You can tell how much time they tapped the screen on the iPad. You can have these metrics. So you can actually even tell how much a student was paying attention. Could you do that in the classroom before? No. I had a student in the first row of class, brilliant, smart kid, last year. And she read all of the Harry Potter books in class. In class. I never knew. No idea. I found out after she graduated. Lucky her, because she wouldn't have graduated if I found out. As-sihr haram. Don't get any ideas, Father. Okay. I say we can bring this philosophy to Islamic studies. Find the best Sirah teacher. Find the best Tafseer teacher. Find the best, Fiqh teacher. 10-minute lessons. 40-minute practice in class. 10-minute lessons, lecture, 20-minute lecture for homework. The entire time in class is spent doing practical work with a guide in front of you, correcting you. You know what that does? You don't have to have the best lecturer in the classroom. You just have to have someone who knows the material. So the burden, what we have the opportunity to do now, is we don't have to have the kind of resources we used to need before to have top-notch education. If we have the right strategy, we can actually really develop solid understanding of Islamic subjects. The first priority was information. What are you going to teach per year? In understanding, the question is, how are you going to teach it? How are you going to give this information? How are you going to give this information that the student will understand? And my component is two things. I'll add a third. There is lecture. What was the second thing? Practice, which should happen in class. And the third is discussion. Discussion. And discussion has to happen in class. Discussion, what you heard, what did you not understand? What do you need repetition on? Let's talk about it a little bit. What this does is it turns the classroom into a living place. Otherwise, the classroom is a one-way street. The teacher's talking, students are half asleep, right? So this revolution in education is happening. And we have to take advantage of this revolution and bring it to Islamic studies. Because up until now, Islamic education has been a sheikh sitting behind a mic, talking for hours. And students sitting there. And whether they understand or not, interact or not, because there's 10,000 of them, right? So the lecture is awesome, the sheikh is awesome, but the students may not be awesome. How do you get students to be awesome? That is the issue here, right? And I feel personally that we have a real opportunity to completely revolutionize how Arabic is taught, how different parts of Islam are taught, completely revolutionize this stuff. So the quality of children we get by the time they're out of high school is just a completely different thing than when you and I came out of high school. The quality of depth in understanding and information and understood information is just a different level. But this requires that we put our best minds together, strategize, and put this thing together and standardize it. And I don't even say we should standardize it for one school, one family. We should standardize this for the ummah. When you standardize this for all parents, then you know what? A school can take advantage of it. A parent can take advantage of it. A homeschooler can take advantage of it, right? Then it's because it's so open, it's such open source, then it becomes accessible to everybody. And schools can even enhance it and make it more advanced, add more things to it, and take it at a further level. But a parent says, I only have 20 minutes a day, what should I do with my child? They have something too. That's how we have to think about taking information and delivering it to our children. And of course this, even in higher education, is beneficial. But we have to build it from the ground up. That's the other thing I personally feel, there are no standards right now. So we have the opportunity to rebuild the standards. What's the standard? What is the standard Islamic knowledge for a 15-year-old Muslim boy or girl? We don't have it. What's a 10-year-old standard for Muslim boys and girls? What should they know by the age of 10? What should they know? There's no standard. Your child knows something else, my child knows something else, right? So if we develop powerful standards, then whoever believes in those standards will try to live up to them. And then over time, if those standards are powerful enough, we'll raise the level of awareness of the ummah altogether. We'll raise that level of awareness. And that's really what I'm interested in. I'm interested in rethinking how we distribute education in Islam. I want to get to the point, because we're now in a global world, I want to get to the point where if I travel to Bangladesh, and I travel to Sri Lanka, and I travel to like Kuwait, and I meet a 10-year-old, they have the same education by the age of 10 that my child has in Texas, in Islam, in Arabic. They're on the same curriculum, even though their teachers are entirely different. Right? Because they access the same standard, the same resources. That to me has global ramifications. The way the ummah will look in 50 years will be completely different if we pull this off. If we can do this right. So in the beginning of my lecture, I told you I'm nearly done. I told you there's information. I told you there's understanding. What was the third component? Application. In the beginning of my lecture, I also told you that there was a unique situation in the ummah.